Welcome to the Shoot Till podcast. If you don't know me, my name is Martin Depict. I'm a photographer and videographer based in Los Angeles. And I recently uploaded a video comparing the DJI Pocket 4P and the Insta360 Luna Ultra. Now, I have both of them here with me, but I wanted to do a live test. I guess not really live because I'm still going to be cutting and editing this podcast, but I want to have this recording in the background and sort of show that it's not a one-off instance. I'm going to set this up exactly how I had it in the previous video, show you guys that it's up to date on the most recent firmware. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to turn it on. So here is the firmware information. 0.288 is the most recent firmware update at the time of this recording. I'm going to put it in the exact same settings that I had in the video. So I'm going to go into Pro settings, set it in iLog. I'm going to put it in auto shutter, max ISO of 800, EV set to 0. So these are my settings right here. You can also see there that it's in 4K 30. And I'm going to turn tracking on to have it track my face. Now, before I start recording on this, I am going to let you guys know that I do have the battery extension on, just like I had in the video. Both are charged to 100%. I am going to be connecting the Insta360 Mic Pro to it because I had it connected during the video recording. I have done this test a couple times after I recorded that video, and it has overheated and shut off with these same parameters. But if I take off the battery extender, it lasts a lot longer, but it still overheats. I believe what it is the remote. The fact that the camera itself is having to charge the remote and also the battery extension having to charge the camera while it's also tracking, while it's also writing to either internal memory or to a micro SD, that all makes up for like a lot of heat in such a small package. So let's go ahead and take a reading on the temperature right now. So I have a temperature gun right here. So it's reading at 90 degrees already. That is pretty hot already. I guess in Celsius and for electronics is not that bad, but we're going to start the recording here. I am going to turn tracking on because it was on during the recording. So I'm just going to double tap my face here and tracking is on. I'm going to hit the record button. Cool. And I'm just going to set this down right here so you guys have a view of it on this camera. I'll try to do minimal cuts while I'm recording, but you'll get to see how much I'm sort of like flipping and flopping over myself as I do one of these podcasts. Let's also connect the microphone. So I'm turning on the mic. Just turned it on and it should show that it's connected on the back of the screen, which it does. So cool. All right. So I'm going to set the mic over here and we'll periodically just check the temperature on it. So right now, 91 degrees right now. So cool. So we'll just leave that running in the back. What this sort of brought up for me though is the idea of practicality when it comes to a lot of these cameras. Now, a lot of the comments on that last video had to do with, who's recording for 30 minutes long on a pocket camera. And I think the answer is that I think a lot of people will be, because a lot of people would use these cameras as just talking head cameras. If someone out there is putting up $1,000 for one of these cameras, I mean, roughly for the vlog combo for these cameras, if they're putting up $1,000 and all they have other than this is their phone, but they don't want to take up memory or the battery on their phone, they're very much probably just going to set it up to tracking and then shoot content like this, whether it's themselves talking or whether it be just putting it in the corner of a room and having it record a bunch of BTS of like a photo shoot, which is what I think a lot of people could use these cameras for, is BTS cameras. Practicality when it comes to photography and videography and just digital cameras in general, I think that line has shifted so much over the years, because when I first picked up a digital camera, like I remember probably 2005, 2006, I had like a little Samsung camera that was maybe shooting 2 megapixels. and that was more than enough to just like shoot, upload onto MySpace and share that content with people. And that was more than enough to have those memories and saved, and to print 5x7 prints on going to Walgreens or wherever it was that you printed out your photos. That was enough. And I think over time, as technology got better and as technology got cheaper and memory got cheaper, and then now that memory is getting more expensive, I think we're seeing sort of like a shift. Like, I do know that camera brands now are giving us so much in these little cameras. Like, the fact that this thing right here, the fact that it can do 8K video is insane to me. The fact that it can shoot HDR is insane to me. It can shoot 37 megapixels photos. That is insane. Like, I had a 1DX Mark II, and that was only shooting like 20, I believe, 20 megapixels. So I think it was 18 actually, 18 or 20. But nonetheless, it's such a huge leap, from like where we were just 5, 10 years ago to where we are now, is that the technology has gotten so good that it is able to fit in such a small package. Pocketable is questionable. Like, to be able to put these in your pocket is definitely questionable, because this thing, even in this case, it could definitely fit in a jacket pocket, but it's more something that you would put in like maybe a sling bag or something like that. Now, the same thing with the Pocket 4P, it's not as pocketable like this right now. So I have the silicone case on it, I have the small rig cage on it, and then I keep my microphone just magnetically attached here. So this is not pocketable. This is definitely something that I would probably just throw in my sling, and I would be good with that. But it's insane how far we've come in such a short amount of time. Practicality, I think, for professionals, or I think camera nerds like myself, like, I'm such a spec nerd. Like, I can spend hours online researching and looking up all these things and reading up on like what certain sensors can do. Like, the FX5 to me has been like such a crazy camera that came out, because I don't know if it's the first camera that has done it, but to have triple base ISO and DGO in one sensor is insane. Like, Canon gave us a DJI sensor with the C70, and then Canon also gave us triple base ISO with the C80. And for the FX5 to have both of those things in one sensor is insane. I think, like, a quick explanation about what either of those things are. Triple base ISO is basically you have these bases in your ISO setting where like the image is the cleanest. So like, I think for the FX5, it's ISO 800. I want to say ISO 3200 and 12,800. So shooting at those ISOs, you'll get the most dynamic range. I do think at the higher end of that, there's probably a little less dynamic range than at the first base, but those are still three bases that you can shoot at and still get a really good image, which is great, because if you're shooting low light video, you're able to get such a crazy sharp image, so much detail in that video, that it's something that we haven't seen to this point. Like, the FX3 was one of those cameras that I don't even want to say that it was the FX3. It was the Sony A7S3 that first had that sensor, and when they put that same sensor into the FX3 body, granted, it can record the same quality video. You just get a different body style and slightly more options in the menu system when it comes to the FX3. But it's the same sensor. So if you've been looking at getting an FX3, I would say, consider the Sony A7S III. And that's, sorry, getting off topic there. I don't want to get off topic too much, but that's like, when it comes to practicality there, that's also another thing too, is that like, there's companies that release different cameras that can do the exact same thing, but they'll sort of like switch them up a little bit. Like the FX3 and the A7S III are a perfect example of that, because same sensor, different body style, a little bit more menu options in the FX3. that body style equated to, the camera staying more popular for longer. It's the FX3 is something that movies were shot on, uh that is still sort of like a grail for a lot of like content creators now. Like that is people's dream cameras. And now that I see the FX5 come out, it is an amazing camera, but is it practical for a lot of people? Probably not. Like, how many people are going to be using that sensor till its full potential? Unless you're out there actually making movies with it, you probably won't be. And then not only that, like if you're not making movies with it, but you do want to just record in that raw that it shoots in all the time, do you have enough memory, or do you have a NAS system at home that can suffice all that storage? Because it's so much that you have to be thinking about when you're looking at these cameras. Like the most practical camera that you can have is this. This is the most practical camera. Your whatever one is in your pocket, right? Like Chase Jarvis said it best, right? With this book, what was it called? The best camera is the one that you have with you, right? And I think I've heard that saying being said so many times over the past couple years, whether it's either said like that or the best camera that you have is the one in your pocket. It's all stemming from the same thing. The best camera that you can have is the one that you have on you, is the one that you can create with right then and there. Like you don't need all the specs a lot of the time. Like I remember getting like my first pro camera, and I think it was shooting 12 megapixels. Like that was my first professional DSLR. Let me actually double check that real quick while I'm here. Yep, the Canon 5D was 12.8 megapixels. The Mark II is the one that like came out a couple years later and like really changed everything, and it was shooting almost double that at 21 megapixels. But with 12 megapixels, this was a camera that professionals were shooting. They were shooting billboards with. All the ads around the time were being shot with this camera. I remember I have a friend that works at Canon, and he told me that the Nike offices here in LA, that they had a bunch of 5D X's. I'm sorry, 5D S's. So this was a while ago, not now. I'm sure they've probably updated their cameras by now, but back then they had a bunch of 5D S's, which back then was shooting 50 megapixels, which was unheard of back then. So the fact that that was sort of the standard of the time, right? Like 50 megapixels was what the most professional company back then was using. And even back then, like there was phase one that was also, I think, 50 megapixels medium format. And Hasselblad is the same thing. They were also shooting around 50 megapixels. I think like the technology, whether it's been around or not, it takes time for it to reach the masses. But now that we're here, now that we've gotten to this point where, your phone, it can shoot 48 megapixel photos, and it has 3 lenses on it with 3 different focal lengths, and you can zoom in 15 times. It's insane how much of that is practical. I don't know of very many people that use their phones to the full extent. Like I don't know how many people are, there are definitely a few. I know that there's a lot of like very creative, well-known YouTubers out there that will, shoot in Apple Log and, get the best out of their phone, and they have like these rigs and hard drives that are being written onto instead of saving footage onto their phone, and they have ND filters on on their phones. So like they turn their cameras into these cinema cameras essentially, and they're doing, the most non-practical thing with their phone. So I think the idea of practical, I don't know if it exists in the way that it used to anymore. And I'll give you an example. Like myself, when I'm looking at even something as small as a dock, uh, a Thunderbolt 5 dock, and like I'm bringing this up because it's something that me and my editor have been talking about a lot lately because he needs one. And so for me, I just go, you know what? Anchor makes a Thunderbolt 5 dock that has like 8 ports, I think, or 4 or 6 ports or whatever it is, and they're all Thunderbolt 5, and it has Ethernet in it, and you can use all these things. But he's like, yeah, but like there's this other one that costs double the price and it has double the ports. And I'm like, are you going to use all those ports? You know, like the people that go for the more expensive things, like there's a need for them. But there's this idea, and there's a lot of photographers, including myself, that when we see things that are like, yeah, this one's great, but like I could have this one that has all the bells and whistles. Will I ever use all those bells and whistles? Maybe rarely, but like it's nice to have, right? And there's this idea, and maybe it stems from like, I don't know, some trauma that I may have, is that like it's better to have it and to not need it than to need it and to not have it. And I think that that's the mentality that a lot of people have when it comes to these products, right? Because they're spending so much money on it. And I think another thing that I tell myself is that like if there's two options, and the one that's more expensive, like for example, between the Pocket 4 and the Pocket 4P, if I was going to choose one and the difference is that $200, should I go with the less expensive one, or will I ever want to get the more expensive one? If the answer is yes, one day maybe I might want the more expensive one, then I might as well just buy the more expensive one, right? And there's that phrase that people say where it's just like buy once, cry once, or it's better to if you buy it cheaper, then you're gonna buy it, then you end up buying it twice. So I might as well just bite the bullet now and save me that future money that I'm gonna spend anyway. And if I had that sort of thought when I was younger, because there was so many times where like I could have gone for the more expensive option, but I didn't. There were so many times where I wished I would have, and I think an example of that would have been when I first started shooting digital. My first crop sensor camera was a D90, a Nikon D90, and it was a pretty big deal back then because it was the first DSLR that can shoot HD video. Not really understanding the fact that it was still a crop sensor camera. So eventually, what I would need to do is upgrade to a full frame camera, because full frame cameras are the standard professionally. And I remember going into a job and not getting the job because I didn't have a full frame camera, and not understanding like, oh, I didn't know it mattered that much. So I think like that sort of stems from that, where like the practicality of like sometimes things being cheaper and it being able to do the exact same thing that a full frame camera could do was not uh was not enough. It needs to fit this standard that I think a lot of people view as, and I think that standard is constantly like shifting. Like when it comes to this pocket camera, the Insta360 Luna Ultra, what is very interesting to me about it is the fact that it has all these bells and whistles, and it has the removable screen, and it has, it can shoot in iLog, and it comes with this really nice microphone. At least the creator combo does. All these like aspects of it have been very well thought out, and I think I think Insta360 knows that most people are not going to shoot in iLog. Most people that buy this camera, although it is sort of marketed as a more pro version, and we still have yet to see the regular Luna be put on the market, the one that's supposed to come out with the one lens. When that one comes out, will people still go as crazy over that one? Like it will probably have a 3 times or 2 times digital zoom, just like the Pocket 4. There's going to be a lot of similarities between those two cameras. Okay, so I think it's probably been about 20 minutes. Let's see. All right, after 20 minutes, almost 112 degrees Fahrenheit. It is getting pretty hot. And I think that's one of the things with this camera is that like if that's the outside, if the outside is 112, the inside must be at least 10 to 20 degrees hotter. But anyway, so this camera can do so much, but it still can't do streaming. There's still these things that are left off of it. And people have complained about the mushy video in iLog, but I think they fixed a lot of that with firmware updates. And the fact that cameras are now being fixed with firmware updates, it's sort of like reminds me of like this idea of what MKBHD talks about, is that like don't buy products on like their future promises, because I do think that a lot of these products, I think, especially with this one, and it's something that I've talked about in the comments of my last video a lot, is that there was an idea that they wanted to rush this to market because they wanted to beat DJI to it. Why they wanted to rush to it, I had no idea, because DJI can't sell in the States anyway. And so either way, Insta360 was still going to get a good amount of sales in the US, especially because they're in all the Best Buys, they're in all the Targets. So knowing that, there's already just like this ease of getting the camera over the DJI. You know, this was the second product that I've had to buy on eBay of DJI. The first one was the Mini 5 Pro, the last drone that they released that wasn't released here in the States. And the thing about that is that DJI is still offering firmware updates even though you're here in the States. But the coverage, and it's something that people have talked a lot about in the comments of the last video, is that like, oh, there's less protection. So you're not, you know, if it breaks, you're kind of like out of luck and you're not able to get any replacements or any help from DJI if something happens. That is 100% true. But I will say that I think Allstate offers insurance for eBay purchases. So if you buy something like this, electronics on eBay, there are certain things that do offer insurance. So if it does break, or if something happens to the product that I believe is like, obviously it needs to be under their terms, but if something happens, you can either, you know, go through the insurance company, have them review everything, and then once they deem it as, you know, something that they can either give you your money back for or send you a new one for, they will do that. And I think that, especially for products like this that are being sold for more than what they're worth, I'm sure that Allstate or those insurance companies have the ability to get these items for like regular MSRP, whether they be buying it from other countries, or if they're buying it in Canada or something like that, that are now able to sell it. Or now I believe that the price of these did go down a little bit now that it has been globally released. So back to practicality. Sorry, I keep going off topic. So the practical use of these cameras would be to not shoot them in D-Log or I-Log. It's to just shoot in the standard, to maybe even just offer an 8-bit color instead of 10-bit. And I know that this footage gets, you know, compressed so much. It's already getting compressed by YouTube's algorithm. If you're just shooting for TikTok, both of these cameras are more than enough. They both shoot 3K vertical video, which is way more than what you need. I think TikTok only shows, I don't even think it shoots regular HD. I think it compresses its video to 720. So shooting in 3K is almost 3 times as much than what you actually need. And so I think the idea of practicality when it comes to these cameras is that either one of them would be able to give you that practical use case. And I didn't mean to, like in that video, because the camera did die on me and because it did freeze on me. Granted, it had frozen on me before. I know that it hadn't. The freeze issues is an issue and a common issue that other creators have had. I've seen other videos of creators talking about it, and I've seen other people bring it up in their content or have it happen to them while they're recording. This was the first time that it happened to me while recording. And I took every precaution necessary. Like in this room right now, it's 76 degrees. It's not hot in here. Like I thought that I was doing everything right by, you know, putting the battery extender on there, by recording to internal memory instead of SD card, because writing to an SD card would be slower. The internal memory, I would assume that it would be writing faster too, and it would cause less heat. The battery grip, I think what most people have said in my comments, or at least from what I've read on Reddit and stuff, is that it is constantly charging it, and from my understanding with batteries is that there should be a safeguard on the battery extension. It should stop charging the camera, or at least start to trickle charge it at a certain percentage. Like if it's over 80%, if the camera's at over 80%, it should not be charging at its full capacity. But I think what has a lot to do with it is the fact that the screen being removable, this screen, let me actually remove it now because I did take it off around in the video. So the removable screen is also being kept charged. And let's actually, it's at 129 Fahrenheit. So that's just the back of the screen. Let me check the back of the camera here. 155 is the back of the camera. So that is already very hot. So we've been going for 32 minutes now. And it being the fact that it is that hot is a little concerning, just because, you know, I think from what I'm seeing here online, cameras are best kept under 70 degrees Celsius. But it is at these higher temperatures, it says that it starts to affect the image with some different noise. So this is like the last time that I want to be doing this with this camera. I don't want it to, you know, keep overheating this way. I don't want to have issues with this camera in the future. Let me put the screen back. We are sort of approaching that time where like the camera has died on me in the past. It's usually lasted between 35 to 45 minutes. In the video, it did not make it past the 30-minute mark. And to that, I just have to say that, you know, the fact that these cameras do have this sort of like random nature of dying is the unreliable part, is the reason why I would personally go with the Pocket 4P over this, because of the fact that it is unstable in that nature. And like, could it be fixed by firmware update? Yes. But again, I think the practical use, I think like when it comes to the most base sense of practicality, is it usable? And like, yes, both the cameras are usable, but which one is more reliable? I would say reliability is a big part of practicality. Like, it needs to be reliable for you to actually be able to use it. And I know this is like a strange use case for me to even bring up, right? Like to even say like, oh, like why would you use this thing professionally? I don't think most people will. I think most people will use this for short clips, you know, like if you're taking it to a theme park or a wedding or a family party, or to hang out with friends, there's not a lot of people that are going to put this thing down and record for 30 plus minutes. Most of them are going to be shooting in short clips. And I think those short clips is where both of these cameras do really well in. Both of these cameras also do really well in the auto mode. So shooting in auto is going to be the best case for both of these cameras. Again, I think the practicality part comes down to what was it designed for, and can you use it the way that it was designed to be used? And I think when it comes to that, I think the Insta360 has the bigger issue because of this overheating issue. And I want to state this: Insta360 is not the first camera that have experienced overheating issues. Sony has experienced overheating issues with some of their cameras, and they've had to release firmware updates to fix them. I remember being at a project specifically, and my camera overheating, and it was the only camera that I had with me. I had to take the battery out of the camera, put it in the fridge, both the camera and the battery, and wait for them to cool down for me to be able to shoot another 30 minutes. That is not practical. I think you want to be able to just shoot. And I think what's a big tell is the fact that the Pocket 4P can do the streaming aspect to it. You can use it as a webcam, meaning that you can just set it up and like probably have it connected to your computer and use it as a webcam all day, and it's not going to have any issues. Now, I do want to do another video or maybe even a live stream on both of these cameras, maybe preferably on the Pocket 4P, because I don't want to make it seem like I'm hating so much on the Insta360, because I tried being very nice in that last video, and I tried saying, hey, it's still a great camera. It still works in auto. I haven't had any issues with it in auto. It's only in these specific situations when you're using it with the battery grip, when you're using it in 8K. There were people in the comments that are like, "Oh yeah, well I shot all day with it and I can still hold it fine." It's just like, yeah, you could pick it up. It's probably you could probably hold it. It is hot to the touch, like to check the temperature again. It's at 121 right now. So 121 degrees, almost 122. That's just the outside of it. If I take off the screen again, so the back of the screen, that is showing at 149, almost 150. Hold on, come on. So 149 degrees on the back of the screen. 150 degrees, holding something that's 150 degrees in your hand, it's hot. Like it's like holding a hot rock. Like it like that's like the I went to high school out in Palmdale. So like I remember just like during the summer picking up hot rocks in the desert. Like that's the closest thing that I can relate it to. But we are at what was that? But we are now at 40 minutes, 40 almost 41 minutes. So this is we're getting close to the point to where it would overheat, and I guess we just have to see at this point, how much longer it's going to last. Front of the camera is 125. So that's the front of the camera where it has the Insta360 logo. The external battery, the battery extender is not overheating. It's at 89 degrees. So 89 degrees is the battery extender. So that's probably what I would be holding on to if I was shooting this out and about. The gimbal itself is not warm, I don't think. It's about 110 degrees, the gimbal itself. 110 degrees. Now, I do want to state this. So I don't believe that the Luna Ultra is a bad camera. If I thought that it was a bad camera, I wouldn't have purchased it. I purchased both of these cameras with my own money. I got it because it was a camera, or it is a camera that I see that can do a lot of great things. And Insta360, for me, at least from other cameras that I've used, it is a more simpler menu system. I think that they are more user friendly when it comes to their cameras. They sort of have everything set up to be easier to use. I think they've done a really good job of that when it came to their first 360 cameras, which is what got them, but which is what put them on the map. Really, is the 360 cameras were so easy to use, and reframing that footage was so easy to do on their phone app or on the computer. If you're using this in the practical sense of not shooting in iLog, in shooting just regular, in shooting in just a standard 10-bit, in taking regular photos and not worrying about the raw photos, it is going to be a camera that lasts a very long time for you, and the quality is going to be amazing. In my first impressions of this camera, I was blown away because I wanted to show that you can use this camera in that non-pro setting, and just use it as a pocket cam. Take it out to places. We took it to a museum, shot for 4+ hours, doing little clips using both lenses. Didn't have any issues. It's a great camera for that. And so I don't want to keep making it seem like I hate on this camera, because it is something that I invested my money into, and I'm not going to be selling it. I'm not going to be giving it away. It's something that I invested into, and I do want it to really do well. I hope that all the firmware updates that they come out with it help it, because I do believe that it's not a small price to pay, especially for such a entry level product like this. And I do want to say that it is entry level, because I think most people that buy into these pocket cameras eventually move up to something like this, like the higher end DSLR cameras or mirrorless cameras that you buy different lenses for, that you end up wanting to take more photos or do more professional work with. This is only the beginning for a lot of people. And I want people to have the best experience with these cameras, because if they do, then they will go on to most likely succeed with bigger and better products. And that goes for both cameras. That goes for both the Insta360 and the Pocket 4P. The front of the camera right now is at 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Something that I want to mention, 132 actually. Something that I want to mention about the Pocket 4P that I really didn't go into, and I think most of it is because it's political, and I think it has a lot of shady aspects to it. But like, there are, and oh, here we go. We got our overheating warning, and that we got it at, how long did the recording last? Just under 50 minutes. So 49 minutes, 18 seconds. So hopefully that's the last time I ever have to do that. And again, I do want to say, shooting for that long, is it practical? No. But like, I can definitely see people wanting to record a podcast with this. People that don't, that if this is the only camera that someone has and they want to record a scene, a very long scene or multiple long scenes, that overheating issue is going to be an issue. So, and this is in a 70-degree room. Imagine if you're out and about in 100 degrees or 90 degrees, it might happen sooner. I don't think that most people should do this. Don't go out and try to make your camera overheat, because, there is a chance that you might be damaging the insides. Granted, I think a lot of these cameras are designed to take a lot of abuse, especially when it comes to heat, because the internals in there are just designed for to take a lot of that heat. The fact that it does turn off means that the safeguards are working, that anything hotter than that might damage the camera, but it's probably not good to put it up to that limit so many times. So I don't want to be doing that or a lot of times. But anyway, back to what I was going to say before. With the Pocket 4P, there are people in this administration, in the current US administration, that have ownership in other companies. And so I see, DJI being banned in the States, whether it be their drones or whether it be the Pocket cameras. The fact that there is that ban, it leaves for other companies to take that spot. And I do think that there is something to say about how, un-American that is, to not allow for competition, and to sort of like not allow for other companies to be a part of the market in that way. There's a lot that I don't know about this specifically, but from the outside looking in, it just looks like there are people on the inside that want to make more money because they're invested into these other companies. That being said, I know that there's probably a lot more to it. And I think, like, especially when it comes to DJI or Insta360, both of them have you register the product through their phone app, which then I don't know what kind of data they get from that. But in a world now where like data is becoming more apparent, and like how much us consumers are being used for that data, I do think that it's a scary topic, and it isn't anything to ignore, but it's also like you're kind of having to choose between what monster you want to give your information to. Like you don't really know who's the good guy or the bad guy. And so I don't know how we got there from Practicality. This is what happens when I podcast, by the way. It's just it goes all over the place. But anyway, I guess I say all that to say that both cameras are still great. Just be aware of the overheating issues. We didn't see it freeze on me today, which is great. Thank God. Hopefully firmware updates keep helping with that and help with the freezing issues, and I don't see any more of that online or on my feed. But I want both cameras to do well. I want people that buy these cameras to do well, not just for the company's sake, but I want people to be able to find a creative outlet, because this is how I started. You know, you pick up a camera, you have fun, you shoot with your friends, you start taking small clips and stuff of things that you care about, and then you start taking jobs and you get bigger and better gear. It just like it's all part of this process and this thing that a lot of us as professionals go through. And so I think the more cameras that we have out there that are available to consumers, that are easier to use, that sort of like at least hit that baseline of the practicality, I think the better it would be for everyone. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you guys staying for the whole thing. If you made it this far, I'll see you guys next Monday. But until then, keep shooting. Peace.